Welcome to this tutorial on how to use Techsoft Design version 3. In this tutorial we're going to be using it to draw the template for our acrylic woodpecker that goes onto the automata toy. Now the reason behind this and the objectives is really just to get you to use 2D design or version 3 to literally draw out a shape or a profile to an accurate measurement that we can then use on our CNC machines to cut out. So this literally used to be called 2D design, mainly because what we draw on here can only be cut out using the laser cutter or a plotter. So in other words, it's going to be 2D. It's not going to be like a 3D design CAD software that we can model in 3 dimensions to then export to 3D printers. So this is solely to do with using a 2D router or using the 2D laser cutter from the CNC point of view. Okay, so at the top we've got the title bar. As you can see, it's Untitled 1 at the moment, and then just below it we've got the menu bar down there, and the menus have all the drop down macros and menus that you would normally associate with Microsoft packages. So on the side down here we've got our drawing and editing tools options, and each one of these, if I click and hold, they've got loads of different options to go through for each function. Now we're not going to be going through many of these today, just the basics that will get you up and running onto this software. Over on this side what we've got is our drawing aids tools, and to be honest there's only a few here that we're going to be using again today, which is going to be the grid, the grid lock, the zoom in and zoom out command. And again, these are just the basics for you to use this package to draw your template. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is change the grid. So by clicking onto the grid, which is this little square here with the double dot, if I double click onto the grid, what should happen then is I get a dialog box appear with a grid spacing, and 10mm is 1 centimeter, so I want to set the grid to 5mm. So what I'm going to do is just delete that and type in 5. I don't have to put the millimeters in, it will automatically set it to millimeters, and if I click onto OK, we can see that the grid has now changed to 5mm jumps. Now I'm going to zoom in, so I'm just going to zoom in twice, 1, 2, and use the scroll bars at the side just to take me to the top left hand corner. And that's just normally where we would start drawing. So on engineering drawings to British standards, we usually start in the top left hand corner. Okay, so what's the first thing we need to do? Well, we need to draw a blank, which is going to be the size of the acrylic, which is going to be 35mm by 90mm down. So I'm going to click onto grid lock, and you can see at the moment it's going in between the dots. So where the cursor is, you can see it's not jumping to the dots, it's going in between. If I click the grid lock on, now it will jump from dot to dot or grid to grid. So I know that every time I join one line to another, that's 5mm. Down at the bottom then, we've got the absolute position on the screen, we've got the relative position, which we'll be looking at down here, and we've also got the distance and angle, and we can use these to actually work out how far we're drawing. So as I'm drawing, I should be looking in this area down at the bottom, and also the distance, just to allow me to draw the size that I need. So I'm going to click onto rectangle, come onto the page, I'm going to start from here, click and hold my mouse, and then just draw a rectangle which is 90 by 35. Now you can see at the bottom where it's got REL, the relative, it's saying 35mm by -90, and that's exactly where it should be from there. So I'm just going to click onto OK, and I've just drawn my rectangle. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is, and I'll just zoom in a little bit more so we can see what we're doing, is I'll need to draw the profile to the woodpecker. So I'm going to click onto the line command now. So the line command is this one here. I'm going to start from that top left hand corner again, and from there all I'm going to do from there is literally go across to the corner and go down 1 and click. From there literally go halfway down and back and go down, then do exactly the same back to this one, but then this time what we're going to do is go right the way down to this point here. So I'm going to click onto this area down to this point here, and from there just click and back up to the top, and we've now got our shape. So I can actually delete the square all the way around it eventually, but at the moment I'm just going to leave that on for a second just so we can work out the measurements. So just to check the measurements from there, we can actually go to draw, click onto dimension, and if I do the vertical ones first of all, what I can do is click onto the top of there, onto the bottom of there, and take that across, move it so it's inside, which will tell me it's 90. I can work out this space down here and that space there, which should tell me that it's actually 5mm. I can do from this top bit down to the bottom part, which should tell me it's 10mm, and then I can do from this part down to this part, which of course will be 15mm. So I can start to do my engineering drawings very easy from here. I don't need to draw this part from here, because if I know the overall is 90, then I can take away 15, which will tell me the distance from here. If I wanted to work out the distance of that actual line, that's pretty much easy enough to do. So at this point then, all I'm going to do next is just dimension. So draw, click onto dimension, and this time go the horizontal method. Now I can use this sort of icon here, but I was just showing you how to do that from the menus. So of course from here, overall, we know that it's going to be 35. And then from this point to there, we know it's going to be 5. So I'll just do this on the outside of it, which means that this part has to be 30. So if we're drawing this, that's how we would actually draw and dimension our drawing. Now in addition to this, we're going to be putting some holes in because we need to attach it to the actual area that we're going to be drawing. So at this point, all I'm going to do now is click onto the circle and hold the button down, and I'm going to move across to where it's got the second part, which is draw a circle with a given center and radius. So I'm going to set this radius to a 1.5mm hole, because I want the actual hole to be 3mm and the radius is half the diameter. So on here, I'm just going to type in 1.5, and as soon as I've clicked onto OK, you'll see the cursor will change from an arrow, select tool, to a circle with a crosshair in. So where am I going to put the first one? Well, the first one actually goes into this part here. So if I just click into that corner there, the second one will go here, so it's literally the next one from there, and then the third one will go there. Now you're probably thinking, well, where's the measurements on here? Well, these are all in a straight line to start off with. So from here, if we measure the centers, so if I go back to the horizontal, if I measure the centers, I know that's going to be 10. If I measure the center from there, it's also going to be 10 because it's 2 dots from the side, which is why we've just kept that border around for the time being. And then from here, it's obviously going to be 10 from this edge as well. So if I was to go from the center there to the edge and draw it down, that's also going to be 10. So it's 10 from each side of the square. This part here then is 10mm going down, so I just need to change it back to horizontal. So from this part here is also going to be 10, and from this part here is going to be 20. So if I actually go from this point at the top to that bottom bit down there, it should be 20 onto there as well. Now I can actually adjust all these lines and move them and various other things from here. So if I want to just tidy the drawing up a little bit, that's easy enough for me to do. And so what we will try to do is make sure that the measurements that are furthest from literally are near this bottom line, so it'll go down. So 5 would need to go near the front. So if I just click onto the 20, because that's going past the 15, and from there if I just move that down to there, the 15 I can move back up to here so we can see where that one is, and then the 10, there's 2 10s down here as well. Now I don't necessarily think we need that 10 one here because it's already on. So if this point, if I just delete that one, that 10 should follow that line to it. So I can now move the 5 a bit nearer to it, to there, maybe. The 10 going from this part. And the good thing about CAD is you can actually redraw all these elements. So these will be the designs that we're going to be using for this woodpecker. Maybe I can move that one down just a little bit more as well to give it clearance. So now when I zoom out, it should tell me what this part is. The 15 really being on the outside, I could do that on the middle one. So if I just delete that from there and just try that one again. So this time if I click onto this part, down to there, and just have it so it's in the middle. And then I can do exactly the same and just move these just slightly down to where it needs to be, and that's a lot better from there. So it actually goes 5, 10, 15, 20, and we can tidy up this bottom part now as well. So if we just move 35 a bit further down, and we move the 10 from here a bit further down, the 5 a bit further up. Now the reason I've done the 5 with the number on the outside is just because it's hard to read sometimes when you've got that in the middle of the line. It's so short. And now I can actually move the 10 a bit further down as well, maybe make it level with the other one or thereabouts. Okay, now again with the engineering drawing, which we'll do in a second, what we would normally do at this point for the engineering drawing is literally do a dark outline around the outside so we can see where the outlines are going to be. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, and before I do that though, I'm going to copy this one because this isn't really what we're going to use to laser cut out, because we don't need all these numbers, but we'll keep this in just to show you how to dimension from there. Okay, so from this point of view, all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to click and select what I've drawn, and then down at the bottom you've got these two yellow blocks which is called copy. So if I now copy that and just click into the yellow square in the center, I can just move this one across and place it onto the side, and then I can carry on doing my engineering drawing. So from this point of view now, if I just select the outside edge, so I'm just going to hold the shift key and select all the lines I want to be thick, and then just go to line, click onto where it's got thick, but I'm just going to change this to 1mm. I don't want it to be too thick. See, that may even be too thick for there as well, looking at where we've got down here. So if I just go to line again, click onto this bit and actually put it down as 0.5 and click onto OK. So we've still got a darker outline than what the dimension lines is, and that's absolutely fine. Okay, so that's our engineering drawing done. So we can see that we've worked out the measurements and we know where everything is from here, and that should be enough measurements for us to work out how to actually draw this template. Okay, so what we're actually going to laser cut, we're going to use this one here. So I'm now just going to go to del any at the bottom, change it to delete part of an object, and I'm just going to delete the lines around the outside of the woodpecker that we've drawn. Okay, so it's now going to cut out this shape, which is going to look like that part when we've done the woodpecker. It's going to cut the holes out so we don't have to drill them. It's pretty easy to use this sort of software. Okay, now we're going to put a pattern on this, and so the first thing we're going to do is just literally put loads of curves on. So I'm going to change the grid now, so I'm going to double click onto the grid, and I'm just going to change the grid to 2mm. So I'm going to click onto 2mm, click onto OK, and the grid will get slightly smaller. Now if I go back to where the circle command is, at the moment it's got the R shape on. I can click and hold that, move back to the circles, and all I'm going to do on this part is outside of this, I'm just going to draw some circles, starting from there bit and just spreading them out. And I'm going to try and put a pattern onto my sort of woodpecker from here. So at this point, I'm going to copy those. So I'm just going to highlight all the areas. So I just clicked on the select tool over here, copy them, and just place them next to each other at this point. Now I know that these are going to literally join up to cover these sort of profiles. So I'm just going to move it into place from here. And then from then, what I will do then is copy it and paste it again. So if I just press paste now, so if you just go to edit, I can either click on to paste down here, or I can literally just highlight the two, or highlight the one even, and then just press copy, and it'll automatically place it in the right place. But if not, I can always drag it down to the bottom. So what I'm going to do now is click back to my del command and click onto this part and just trim the lines in between those circles. Now if you get it wrong, like I've just done there, the undo command is right here, and you can undo quite a few spaces back. So I'm just going to delete this part, then I'm going to click back to del any, just because it makes it easy to do, and just click those lines. So you can see I've now got this sort of pattern that's going to start, and then the next job is to copy all of those. So let me just highlight it all, click on to copy, and let's just move this down back to where it needs to be at the bottom. And then I'm just going to do exactly the same again. So I'm going to click back onto the del command, trim these lines here. So just being very careful what I'm trimming on this part. And this time it's going to be a bit trickier because we can't just delete any of the lines this time because we've got the ones now underneath. So on here, what I'm going to do is just cut that shape there. So you can see we're starting to get this pattern that's going to emerge. So again, do exactly the same. The reason we're repeating what we're doing is just because repetition helps you learn as you're doing these parts. So I'm lining it back up where it needs to be, and I'll do exactly the same. Now you can see it's roughly the same size of what I need to copy from here. So again, this time, if I just delete the bits that I don't need, it's just taking a bit of time, a bit of care to do that. And I can see now the top bit I'll probably need another circle at the bottom, but I think the rest should be okay. So all I need to do is just highlight that circle again from here, click on to copy, and then just move that up to the position that I want it to be. And really it needs to be there. So now if I just delete this part and then just do exactly what we've just done, just delete these parts from around it, and what we should be left with is a pattern that we're now going to engrave onto one side of the laser cutter. So the point of this, as well as getting you to draw, is so you can see some of the functions that the laser cutter can do, as well as cutting through material. It can actually engrave onto material. Okay, so from that point, all I'm going to do now is highlight this bit, and I'm going to move it over onto this side. But before I do, I need to tell the computer that I need to engrave this, and the way that we do that is we assign a different colour. So anything that's black on an outline, usually the laser cutter will see that as something that it cuts right the way through 100% of the power. We can then assign a different colour, so in this case I'm going to use red, and anything that's red we can tell the computer that we actually want it to engrave, we don't want it to cut right the way through. So if I just click onto OK there, and then I can move this part to cover the woodpecker that we've got from here. Okay, so we can still see we've got a few bits missing. So all I'm going to do is just click it again, just move it across to the bits that we've got to see if I can try and get this covered at a more decent place. Now this part here shouldn't be too bad at the top because you wouldn't necessarily see those sort of corners anyway. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to trim the outside of the edge. So I go back to my trim command, which is the second one along. So just click and hold onto the trim command, and I'll literally just cut all the lines that are outside that black profile. So any line that literally crosses or intersects a line, it will literally just cut and trim that back for me. And then I'm left with a pattern that is going to be etched or engraved by the laser onto my woodpecker. Now sometimes these aren't all cut through. I'm not going to bother with the bits inside the circles like that, simply because they're going to be cut out anyway. So it's going to fall out anyway. But as I'm here, I might as well just trim that one. And then at this point, if I hit the refresh button or the redraw, it'll then tell me if there's any lines that I need to cut out, which it isn't. So now, just to finish off, I've left this part here just to be a bit more thorough. I'm just going to use that part to Control C, Control V is also a way to paste, but you paste it away from the object when you do that. And I'm just going to make sure that these other parts are trimmed as well, just to make it look a bit better. And then right at the top, just for attention to detail, I'll do exactly the same here. So you might actually just see part of that line. Okay, so there we have it. We have the woodpecker with all the bits that's engraved on as well. Now the final thing for me to show you is just how to put your initials on if you wanted to, so we know that everybody's is different. So we're going to put our initials down here. So over on the side here, I'm just going to click onto where it's got the text command, click onto the text in a box. So I'll just draw the box that I want it to be. So it's going to be this sort of size, and inside it just going to put my initials. So in my case it's just going to be TH, maybe in capitals, make it easier, and click onto OK. Now at the moment you can see that I can actually manipulate this and stretch it how I want it to be, but because it's coloured in black, exactly what I said earlier about it's literally burning this out, it would try and cut all that material out, and that would probably cause the acrylic to set fire because it's focused in such a small area. So what I'm going to do now is just literally unfill it, so I'm left with a black line. So I just go to where the fill command is up at the top, click onto no fill, and click onto OK. So it's now giving me the black lines for it to cut out, and again, because I don't really want this cut out, what I'm going to do is change these to red as well, so these will be engraved. So just click onto the colour and change it to red. Now it's important that you don't use the custom colours, because every one of these basic colours has something to do with the laser cutter. So if you start changing the colours, sometimes the laser doesn't recognise what it is that you're trying to do. So I've just changed that to red. You can rotate it by clicking onto this part, so if you wanted it some sort of an angle or various things round, it's quite easy to do. I'm going to leave mine though going at an angle from here, and then all I'm going to do is move that onto somewhere onto the drawing. So if I just move it smack into the middle there, and I'm going to cut these bits out, so I can zoom in again, and I'm just going to cut any line that goes between these lines, just so we can see it a bit clearer when we're drawing. And that's the ideal of using CAD. So CAD allows you to zoom in and zoom out to get that detail in. And that's pretty much this project sorted. So if I just zoom out, the next stage is just to show you how to save this as a Dxf file so the machine can use it. And literally go to File, click to Save first of all. So just save this as your drawing. You can save it into your documents onto there as well. So I'm just going to save this one as Woodpecker. But you'll need to put your name onto this if you're sending it to be laser cut. So I'm just going to call that as Woodpecker, just for easy for mine. And then on this part, if I then go to File, and then this time I need to click onto Export, and you'll see that it will automatically change it to a Dxf file, a data exchange file. And you can just make sure that your name and your form, so for example it could be John Smith 7.1 that you place into there, and that can be emailed then across to myself, and we can then get this laser cut out for you. Or alternatively, it's easy for you to find and to send it to us so you can laser cut it out from that point of view. And that's it really, and that's the basics for using Techsoft version 3. So I'm just going to click on to save there, click on to OK. So when you click onto this, none of this needs to be changed, so we can just leave this one as it is, just click on to OK, and that gives us our final drawing. Now this will need to be copied and pasted onto a piece of paper, so you can insert this into your workbooks to show that you've completed this task as well. So at this point, all I'm going to do just to make it a little bit better is literally just click onto the border. Everything looks better with the border. I'm just going to draw the border around my design, and then that's ready to go and print off. So there's two ways we can do this. The first one is to change it and save it as a JPEG. So I'm just making this look a bit better here. I'm just putting some radiuses on just to make it look a bit better from that point of view, and then that's pretty much ready to go into my folder from there. So from there I can either go to File and then Print, or you can either go to File and then this time Save As, but when it clicks onto Save As, you can change the files down here that you might need it to be. So at that point you can change whatever it is, or alternatively you could open up PowerPoint and just do a screenshot of it. Now, to improve the drawing as well, rather than have the grid behind, you can turn the grid off and then just resend, and that should show you where the grid is from here. And that's it. So that's you using 2D design. So hopefully if there's any questions, you can see a member of staff and they'll just point you through it, or you can pause the video at any point and just recap from what you're doing.